Hey everybody, Invisiblekatana here. I am doing my, I guess, season review or chapter review. They call it chapters, but I'm doing I'll just call it season. My full season review for Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy, Chapter 1 Siege. It's a super long name. I have no idea what I'm going to actually title this. I'll probably just do a simple season 1. But anyway, obviously there are going to be spoilers, as the title says. They will be in the second half of this review. As always, I will let you guys know. It's been forever since I've done an actual review, so it's really weird. I probably should have, cut my really crappy hair, but it is what it is. I got up. It felt like a Saturday morning. I'm off today, so I was like, let me get up. I'm watching Transformers. I got to watch Umbrella Academy later. G4 is doing an AMA, so I'm very excited for that. So it's a good nerdy day, but I was like, I got up early, had my Fruity Pebbles. I was like, let's watch Transformers. So it was like a classic Saturday morning, but Friday. So it's been a good day so far. So getting right into it, as you can see, Transformers War for Cybertron. We got the video games there. That's what this is based off of. It's based off the games which became the new canon for just the entire Transformers universe. I highly recommend these games, even though they're PS3 games. I know the first one was remade on PS4, but not the second one, so just I guess pick them up on PS3 or just watch old Let's Plays. Really great stories. If you are a huge Transformers fan, you really need to experience those games because they are super fun. The stories are different. It's based off of those, but the story in this show is very different than the story in the actual games. So it's still worth checking out both. But I really enjoyed this. It's really short, so I will say that off the top because I was curious how long it would be with having to watch Umbrella Academy and the G4 stuff. I was like, man, I wonder how long this will take to get through. Not that I wanted it to be short because it's Transformers. I love it. But it's only 6 episodes, so just to let you guys know, you can shoot through it pretty fast. And it's entertaining the whole way through. It's not super drawn out or anything like that, especially with 6 episodes. I feel like they keep the pace going really well. They have the dramatic moments. They have, of course, it's Transformers, so you gotta see some cool action. They have, the classic sound effects. The voices, I think, are really well done. Optimus and Megatron are not our classic voices of Peter Cullen and Frank Welker, which I would have loved. I always love, the OG, voice actors, especially because Peter Cullen still does them in the movies. I don't know if they're making more movies, and honestly, I haven't seen, the last 2 or 3. Since Mark Wahlberg, I haven't seen forward to whatever number they're on. But Peter Cullen always does the voice in the movies. Frank Welker, unfortunately, hasn't done the voice in a minute. I think he was in Transformers Prime. I haven't seen, the last 2 shows that they've done that have been on whatever channels they've been on. Admittedly, I haven't watched those. But I know he was the voice of Megatron, and Peter Cullen was Optimus in Transformers Prime, which, it still sucks that got canceled because that was an amazing show, and they canceled it, and I was like, that should have been going on to this day. That show was fantastic. But anyway, this show, I think they did a good job. I like the voices, like I said. The designs look good. They're based off of the ones from the game, so everyone looks, pretty much like their G1 counterparts, but slightly modernized. So, if you've been getting the figures or you've been watching stuff, that's just kind of what they've been doing lately. They've been like, hey, let's have the characters be basically their G1 versions, but we'll update them, just a little bit. So I like the style. I like the look of the characters. The interesting thing about them is the dynamic of the characters and how they're so different. Not everybody's on, the same sort of path, I guess, or storyline that you would expect them to be. And, I'll get into that when I get into spoilers, because it starts off really early. In the first episode, you see that with a specific character, and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen this for this person. So I thought that was really cool. Some of the stuff that they did, they changed up for the characters. But all in all, it's really fun. There's not much else I can say. I have my little list of things here that I'm going to talk about, which is full-on spoiler talk for, just back and forth discussion with you guys. But if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. I think they did a really good job. They didn't show a date for chapters 2 and 3. It just said they'll return with chapters 2 and 3, which I knew, something was going to happen. It's called the trilogy, so I knew something was going to, was going to come out later. But I was like, it popped out, boom, 6 episodes, and it was just they'll be back. And I was like, dang, I wish we at least knew a date so we could kind of anticipate it. But I think they did a good job. I'm very excited, just to say this, with the way that they did it. I think it's going to be interesting watching chapters 2 and 3, because the way that this, we'll say this chapter ends, it seems like each chapter is going to be very, very unique. Just based on what they showed with where it started and then where this ended, I'm very excited to see how this is going to progress going into chapter 2, and then how that's going to end going into chapter 3. And I would assume chapter 3, they're going to end up on Earth. I don't think this whole series is going to take place on Cybertron, or it might end, with them going to Earth, and that kind of setting off kind of the classic Transformer storyline that we're familiar with. So that's where I think it's going to head, by the very end. But it's very interesting because I'm like, this is very, like I said, very different from the games. What they did at the end of this season basically doesn't even happen, in the game. So I'm like, I have some theories, and like I said, that's all spoiler stuff. But highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Like I said, it's only 6 episodes. You can hop in, eat some Fruity Pebbles like I did, basically have a Saturday morning and just, kind of rush through it, have, tons of classic characters get call outs and stuff. There's redesigns for some characters, different storylines for, classic characters. So I love the way it was handled. We get to see quite a bit of Cybertron. They go through some of the lore, stuff like that. So they pack a lot in for these 6 episodes. They don't get it's 6 episodes, so they don't spend a ton of time going through every single historic moment, of Transformers, but they get the big points. It's like, this is what happened with us, this is where we're like this is why these characters are like that, this is this relationship, here's that relationship. 6 episodes, that's the past, here's the present, and let's see what happens next. So I think they did a great job with the 6 episodes they gave us. I'm very excited for chapters 2 and 3 and some of my theories, but for now, that's pretty much it. Non-spoiler wise, I highly recommend you guys check it out. I think they did a good job. It looks cool as well. So it is technically an anime, Netflix original, but the lip sync is definitely, it was clear that this was made for English audiences, because when they speak, I'm like, okay, those are English words. It's not like it's dubbed over. It's clearly, even though it's a Netflix original anime series, because it's even in Japanese in the beginning where it says that, but when I watch it, unless I'm insane, all the voices match the English voices. So I was like, okay, it's technically a Netflix anime series, but is definitely meant to be for English audiences. So all the lip syncing, there's no lip syncing that's really off. Everything is clearly they made it to be in English. So I was like, oh, that's cool, just because it's when you see the lips move, it would throw you off because you see their mouths in this one. So that was really cool. Love the designs, love the characters. I love Transformers, so highly recommend it. Like I said, at this point, we're getting into full-on spoilers. I am going through my spoiler list, so I'm gonna say spoilers 2 more times. Spoilers again. So, just starting off, episode 1, Bumblebee. I was not expecting him to be that character where he was just in the middle. Bumblebee was always he was always the scout, and he still is in this. He's a scavenger more than a scout, so I thought that was cool. He's a hired gun. And I was like, I like that for Bumblebee. It's interesting to see that with his character. He's kind of the rebel without a cause. He doesn't like anybody, sort of thing. He's just hey, I'm doing my job. I don't care about you guys. I'm getting that out of here. I'm getting my money, and I'm going away. And I was like, huh. He's kind of a jerk, just a little bit. I think Wheeljack says he's a pain in my ass, and I was like, huh. You don't really get that, from Bumblebee. So that was an interesting dynamic for his character, and then how he evolves into getting the Alpha Trion protocol and stuff like that going forward. And then, of course, that leads him into officially becoming an Autobot. But I like that idea. I thought that was really cool. My first note that I wrote, though, was Wheeljack and Bumblebee were the same size. And I don't think anyone is the same size as Bumblebee except for maybe Cliffjumper, because that's the whole point of Bumblebee is that he's the shortest out of everybody. So when they showed them together, I was like, huh. That was the first thing I saw where I was like, that makes me feel weird being the giant nerd that I am, because Bumblebee is always the short guy. So that was interesting. It was worth noting for me, because I was like, that's almost Bumblebee's thing, is that he's the shortest Transformer. So that was weird. I had to note that, just that being a thing. So yep, B has an attitude. He's the hired gun. After that, Starscream can't catch a break. Man, it was his first effing scene, and Jetfire just sliced his arm off, and I was like, dang, he just can't. Just no matter what timeline or what universe or what storyline, somebody is hurting him, talking down to him, just sliced his arm clean off. I was like, wow, that was probably more visceral than anything that normally happens. I mean, he's threatened a trillion times by Megatron. He gets punched, he gets, pushed down, all this stuff. And he's about to shoot. He's about to, he's aiming at their enemies. And, and I like what they did with Jetfire. But it was just boom, just sliced his arm clean off. And I was just like, well, geez, he just started. So that was pretty funny. I was like, yep, there's Starscream Storyline. So Starscream, pretty much 100% perfect. It was just got his arm chopped off. Eventually, he became the leader of the Seekers once Jetfire turned. And then, I'm sure we'll see more of him trying to take over Megatron later on. But I thought that was cool. I like what they did with him. His voice, I think, was pretty much perfect. His voice was pretty much spot on. So I liked his the most. The other characters, like I said, I still enjoyed. The Peter, I didn't mention this. I should have mentioned this in the non-spoiler thing, but probably won't matter for people that are already here for spoilers. You guys are probably the ones who care the most. I thought the voice for Optimus was so interesting. I like the voice. I like the voice for all the characters. But with Optimus, I was like, I know that's not Peter Cullen, but that person, I looked up the name. I forgot to write that down. But whoever did the voice was so close to being Peter Cullen. It was weird because I'm like, it sounds just like Peter Cullen, but like maybe a little bit deeper, I guess. And it was just like, that is so weird. It's so close to sounding exactly like G1 Peter Cullen voice actor, but I know it's not him. And it like I think it was only the first episode. It was just weird because I'm like, he's so close, but I know it's not him. And it was weird when I was first seeing it because I was like, maybe it's just because he's older, but I was like, I've heard him in the movies still, and it sounds the same. But I was just like, it's so freaking close, but it wasn't him. So for the first episode, I'd say that was a little weird to me because I was like, huh, it's literally like like a half step off, and then boom, it's Peter Cullen. But I was like, wow, it's so freaking close. It was just weird because I'm like, you're so close, but I know you're not him. So that was weird, but only for episode 1. Then I was past it. But Starscream was cool. So Jetfire, I couldn't remember who Jetfire was in the beginning and I just wrote it down. I was like, who is the secret captain? Because I'm like, he looks so familiar because obviously it's Jetfire. He has the design. But I was like, and that was one of the things that I thought was cool because I don't believe in G1 Jetfire was a part of the Decepticons. It's been forever since I've watched like the original G1 cartoon. So I could be wrong about that, and that was always his storyline, and I just forgot. But I thought it was cool. I was like, huh, that's very interesting. Also, his eyes were blue, so I knew they were doing something there because all the Decepticons' eyes are red, and then all the Autobots' eyes are blue. So I was like, I know something's going on. I noticed that like in the first episode. I was like, his eyes are blue. Everybody else's eyes are red. And he has like this weird moral thing where he wants to be honorable to their enemies and stuff. And I was like, he's going to turn on them. Like I already saw it coming, but that's Jetfire. So either that was always his storyline or that was new, and I just recognized the design and I knew he was meant to be an Autobot anyway. But I was like, yeah, his eyes are blue. The bad guy's eyes are red. Something's going to happen there. But it was super cool. I like Jetfire. So I think it's Moonracer, and I think they call her by a different name at some point as well. The female Autobot that's like teal, I was like, I know that's a woman, and this had to be on purpose because there's no way they didn't do this intentionally. She looks like Cup from G1 Transformers. Like, she looks like Cup from the movie. And I was like, that is so weird to me. I know it's not Cup, but I'm like, that woman looks just like Cup. She has like the same head design. She had the same color scheme. And I was like, this is interesting. I was like, I don't know why they did that. I guess it was just a reference to Cup or something. But I was like, she looks like Cup from the Transformers movie. And then I think season 3 and 4, or is it just 4? I forgot how many seasons come after the movie. I think it's 3, and then 4 was like a super short season. But she looked like Cup, and I believe it was Moonracer. So that was worth noting. I wrote blue eyes for Jetfire. The Alpha Trion Protocol, I thought that was cool. It sucks that Ultra Magnus died. I always liked Ultra Magnus. He always had a really like super cool design to me. Obviously, like that's always been like his whole story. Like even in the movie when he was introduced, it was like, hey, here's Ultra Magnus, who everyone assumed was going to be the next leader after Optimus because he was like the commander and stuff like that. He was basically as big as Optimus as well, so it kind of just fit in line. It was like Optimus Prime, Ultra Magnus. It just worked. He has a sick name, and just everything about him is pretty cool. So he goes in, he ends up seemingly betraying the Autobots. He gets captured. He's able to get some intel. Unfortunately, he gets tortured, and then he never gives them up. And so he just gets killed off, and I was like, well, that blows. I wish we got to see more Ultra Magnus. But it was kind of a messed up scene, and Megatron was just pissed, and it was just like, boom, and he just killed him. It was like, all right, you had your chance. You pissed me off, and that's it. And so we find out that he has the Alpha Trion Protocol that leads to Bumblebee's storyline, and I thought that was really cool. So we get to see Alpha Trion. They go through the fact that Optimus and Ultra Magnus being like the two most worthy leaders. Optimus, of course, has the power of the Matrix, so Ultra Magnus got the knowledge of the Trion Protocol, and I was like, well, that's really cool. I like that concept where they, it's like, it's too much power for one to wield, so we'll split it up because they're, that's just how they are, and it was like, well, that's pretty sweet. I just like that concept, so I thought that was cool. It kind of sucks that they got rid of that pretty much by the end where the virus actually worked, and I was like, oh, well, that blows, because I was like, I like that concept of like Bumblebee, Bumblebee was always like our introduction to it. That's why Bumblebee is in the movies. That's why Bumblebee is the only Transformer to have his own like origin story movie and all that stuff. So I like that idea where it was like, oh, okay, well, let's have Bumblebee be the thing. That's always been Bumblebee. Like even in G1, he was the one character that was attached to the humans. So I like that idea. I was like, okay, let's see Optimus is the leader, and then Bumblebee is the one who has that knowledge. So I like to see him have like that boosted role, even though that's kind of what's been done ever since the movies, especially. Like they've done that for sure. But I would have liked to have seen it, especially not counting any humans or anything like that. Like he's solely important based on what he knows, not because he's attached to whatever random human actor is in it. So I would have liked that. And then they erased it at the end. I was like, well, okay, that's cool. It's like he'll still have an interesting role considering where he began. So I still like the concept, but I was like, that kind of sucks. The virus actually worked, and then they erased all that knowledge. So I was like, okay. Mirage was pretty cool in this. He had that really epic moment where he actually shields the sky bridge for quite a while until he passes out. But him and Impactor, I thought that was pretty cool. So I just like that idea. It's like, of course, they're enemies, and they have that even with Jetfire. Was like, how can we trust this person? But the whole thing with Mirage and Impactor, and then Impactor kind of going from Decepticon to kind of being neutral, was like, hey, even before this insignia, I made a promise to myself to protect all of Cybertron. So I like that concept as well, and then ultimately he sacrifices himself. So I thought they had a cool little relationship there. RC shows up in episode 5. I was pretty much just waiting for her. I think she may have shown up for like a split second somewhere else, but that could have also been Alita. But RC was in episode 5, and I was like, cool, there's RC. Just RC is cool. Also, Sound Blaster showed up, and they made him where he was a failed clone. I thought that was really cool. Omega Supreme being one of the Guardians, also super cool. Because when Optimus first goes to the Guardians, I was like, okay, that looks like Omega Supreme to me. I must be crazy because I don't remember that. I've seen G1 Beast Wars, which barely even counts. But G1 Beast Wars, I've seen like the Armada stuff, Cybertron, Energon, Armada back on Cartoon Network, and then Transformers Prime. So I haven't read the comics and all this other stuff, so I don't know if that's been in maybe one of the other shows. For sure, the trillions of comics that have come out, maybe Omega Supreme was already that character where he was technically like a guardian. I don't think I even knew that concept before as far as Transformers is concerned. So when I saw that, I was like, this is new to me. And I was like, well, that definitely looks like Omega Supreme, but maybe not. Obviously, they had them all cloudy and everything, but there are 3 of them. And then Omega Supreme shows up at the end, and I was like, well, that's super sick. And he just like blasts out of the ground and was like, I'm acting on my own. The other 2 Guardians, they don't really take a stance in the war, but Omega Supreme does. And I was like, well, Omega Supreme is awesome. So that was just a cool spot. Omega Supreme shows up. They leave on the Ark. So I thought that was pretty cool, but they split up the characters, and that's why I'm super excited for Chapter 2, because we have the characters that escaped, and then we have the characters that are left behind. So we have Moonracer, Red Alert, Jetfire, and then Alita, Alita is going to be like their leader. So I thought that was super cool, and then I'm sure they'll probably end up finding some more Autobots, because they do reference the fact that once the virus is going through, it's like, we have all these other Autobot bases, and everything's going down. So we see Cliffjumper for like a split second in this. He shows up once in the whole season, so he might show up in season 2. But the half that makes me even more excited is the fact that we have a bunch of characters on the Ark, and they took off, and then there's just this warning at the end, and it was like, incoming vessel. And the first thing that came to mind, I was like, and I wrote it down. It's my last little thing, but I put last to make sure I didn't say it first. The Quintessons. Or Quintessons, I don't know why I said it that way. The Quintessons, they might show up in season 2, and that would be really cool if they explore some of the other races that we know as far as the Transformers and things like that before, because like I said, I assume that this show is going to end, and that's when they're going to head to Earth, but we won't actually see that. It'll just be, Cybertron and the other planets. So that's what I'm, really excited for, is to see them have the Quintessons show up. I don't know if that means, maybe they'll go to that junk planet. We might get Weird Al song in it again. I highly doubt they'll do that, but that would be funny. But I like the idea, and I hope that's what they do, because I would just love to see how that ends up playing into the rest of the story, where it's like the Quintessons are, the Quintessons are like their own thing. Like they're the enemy to enemy of my enemy type of deal. So they're always like bad, period. So I'm curious how that's going to play out. Maybe we'll get like the little shark bots and stuff like that. Who knows what's going to happen, but I like that idea. That's what I'm hoping, at least, because it's like if someone else is coming into the fold, that's the first thing that comes to mind. It's the Quintessons or, the junk planet people. So that's about it. That's all I have as far as like concepts and theories for everyone on the Ark. But as far as the planet itself, there's so many possibilities. Like I said, we saw Cliffjumper for a split second. I'm sure there are a ton of other Transformers that are just going to get, their random call-outs. They had that one scene when they were setting up the trap, and Megatron was like, are you guys ready? And they just it was like, here's a call out, here's that person, here's that person, here's that character. So it's, we'll probably get that in season 2 as well. Probably both on planet and off planet, but I'm looking forward to that. Dinobots need to come in. We need more Soundwave. Soundwave wasn't in it enough, so I would like more Soundwave in season 2. But I would like to see Grimlock. Grimlock is my favorite Autobot. Soundwave is my favorite like Transformer. Period. So if I get my 1 and 2, I'll be happy. But I want to see the Dinobots pop in. I want to see. I would love to see Devastator pop up or Trypticon. I believe that the giant T-Rex would be sweet. Who else? I can't think of the city, but like this Metroplex. I would love to see Metroplex show up. That might be something they say for like season 3, as like a final big bad moment they could do, just like they did. That's the thing that they do in the games, I believe, is Trypticon versus Metroplex, or at the very least they're both in there at some point, even if they don't end up fighting. I know they're both in the games, so I would love to see that, because a giant robot T-Rex is really cool, and Metroplex is a city transformer. That's just cool. So I would love to see both of them pop up. More Omega Supreme is always great. I don't know if they're gonna go as far as maybe even Unicron shows up. Like it's a lot of possible ideas, and who knows if Chapter 2 and 3 are both going to be 6 episodes. If they are, they probably won't go into the whole craziness of like, holy crap, we got to defeat Unicron and all this other stuff. So that might be kind of me going a little bit too far into it, but it would always be cool. I would love to see it happen. But either way, I enjoyed this. I would love to know your thoughts on this first season. What do you like about it, not like about it? What do you wish we got to see more of? What do you hope we see more of in seasons 2 and 3? What characters do you want to see more of? Let's see. I mean, there's so many freaking Transformers, but I think those are my tops. I need more Soundwave. Definitely need the Dinobots. I would love it if the Dinobots are like they are in the games. That would be freaking amazing, because they are so cool in the games. Like they're like their own little army, and obviously Grimlock's whole thing is that he's like the strongest person. So I would love to see them pretty much rip it like straight out of the games. The design and everything is utterly phenomenal from those games as far as the Dinobots are concerned, specifically Grimlock. So I would love to see him just rip it right from the games, design, just the whole backstory, everything. I'd be totally fine with that, and they just toss him in there somehow. So I would love to see that. Like I said, the other couple of characters, Metroplex, Trypticon, if I'm even getting the name right, I would love to see Rumble, Ravage, Frenzy. We saw Ravage in there for like a split second. They did show Ravage. Ratbat was in there as well. Laserbeak, which I thought that was cool. They gave Ratback to Sound Blaster, so I thought that was cool. Let's see, who else? Yeah, Rumble, Ravage, Frenzy, like just, all the cassettes, and probably more of them, because like I said, Ravage is literally in there for like a second. I was like, oh, there's Ravage. And, he wasn't even with Soundwave. It was just, he was off on his own, with other Decepticons, and that was the only time he showed up. And they, like, an explosion went, and they all scattered. And I was like, oh, there's Ravage. Bye. So he was just gone for the rest of the season. So I'd like to see more of them. I would like more references to the old movies, because they have a couple in here. I think Starscream mentions ripping out someone's optics, and I was like, okay, that reminds me of Megatron saying it to Optimus in the movie. So I would love more references. Bawi, Grana, Weep, Ninibon, stuff like, silly stuff, like just random old school references. But either way, I really enjoyed this first season. I'm excited to see what they do with seasons 2 and 3, or chapters 2 and 3. But I would love to know what you guys thought about it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.